Chapter 6. A familiar darkness firmly engulfs Jeremy's world. Looking around, he finds nothing but blackness surrounding him from every angle and gripping him ever so tightly. Reaching out, his hands grasping in all directions, he finds only nothingness all around him, not a single stitch of matter within arm's length. Stepping forward into the nothingness, his hands wade through the void, still grasping aimlessly about. Grasping for anything at all, but finding absolutely no contact, no matter how hard he tries. He calls out, searching for an answer from anyone who may be able to hear him in the distance. Listening intently for a response, he hears nothing, including an echo of his own voice reverberate back to him. It's as though even the very sounds releasing from his throat are all overtaken by his deep surroundings. They all just die out, never traveling further than his very lips. Weighing heavily upon him, the darkness squeezes him tightly, suffocating him in the absoluteness. Falling to his knees in the blackness, he has no hope in his heart. Terrified, he expects only death to come for him now. Is this my hell? He wonders to himself. Then it appears, an eerie dim redness beginning to glow in the distance. The light calls to him through the long empty gap. It has such a draw on him that he can almost feel its gentle whisper creeping in the confines of his ear canal, rapping ever so gently on the thin layer of skin that makes up his drum. A cold grip makes its way up his spine and all the way up and around the back of his neck. Its wrap grows tighter around his throat and pulls him slowly toward the light. He follows it without reservation at first. Closer and closer he moves in the direction he is pulled. Step by step, he's lost in the hypnosis of the guiding light. With zombified footsteps moving closer and closer toward this mysterious glow, toes dragging with each slow, awkward step. Suddenly, a terrifying feeling overtakes him as he stands just moments from the source of the light. Just seconds out of its reach, he realizes he has no will to reach the light anymore. However, no matter how hard he tries to stop and turn away, he just can't seem to pull himself away from its grasp. The more he struggles to make an escape from the glow, the tighter around his throat he feels it reeling him in. Jeremy tries with all of his will to pull away from this destination, but his body stiffens up as he reaches the pole's goal for him. There before him stands a towering door, the towering door that hides the source of the red light, only letting the red glow emit from around its edges. There appears to be no walls around this door, so Jeremy has no concept of where this door can lead. Unwillingly, his hand jerks eerily as it creeps from his side and upward toward the middle of the door. The tips of his fingers make contact and drag roughly across its wooden body. Warmth radiates from the other side of the door. Jeremy can feel the other side welcoming him to open the door and enter the unknown. Without looking, Jeremy's hand instinctively finds its way to the knob on the right side of the door. As he grips the warm steel sphere in his hands, the fear again overtakes him and he refuses to turn it. Releasing the knob, Jeremy jumps back a step quite quickly. Turning to leave the door, it was then Jeremy began to hear them. From all around him, the screaming begins. An ear-wrenching squeal of torment engulfs the world around him. Coming from every direction, the sounds of unspeakable pain pierce the darkness and send pain spreading feverishly throughout his body. After trying to fight it for a few seconds, he gives in and collapses to the ground. His knees pull tightly to his chest as he clasps his palms to his ears, using his fingers like vice grips, holding them firm while pushing his forehead forcefully to the not visible ground below him. Jeremy then feels it. Something is getting closer. From all around, it creeps up on him, reaching for him. He feels it reach for him, grasping for him, only inches away. Leaping up at the door, his hand wraps around the knob just as it catches him. Ah! He screams as he jumps hastily, banging his head harshly against the wall behind him, and promptly brings the covers to his chin. Glancing swiftly from corner to corner of his room, he makes sure his eyes catch every single centimeter. He drowsily comes to the realization that what he had just experienced had only been a dream. After he finally lets himself relax, he rubs at the back of his head in an attempt to ease the throbbing. While trying to ease himself back into reality, his door swings open and his light flashes on, blinding him for a moment. His body tightens up to the point of causing him pain. Looking up hastily in shocking fear, his eyes adjust just in time to see his mother rush to his bedside, a worried look upon her face. "Are you all right?" she questions him in her most panicked voice as she sits on the bed next to him. She reaches up and places the back of her hand on his forehead. "Oh my, you're dripping with sweat and you're burning up." I'm fine," Jeremy reluctantly responds as he shakes her hand from his head before continuing on. "Just a nightmare." "That must have been some dream." His mother exhales strongly. Do you want to talk about it? I can get my book." She stands up from the bed. "Hold on 1 second," she says. She begins to walk toward the door in a hurried manner, her red and blue flannel robe waving in pace with her steps. "Not right now, Mom," Jeremy calls out to her, stopping her in her tracks. "I'm just gonna go back to sleep," he says as he lays back down, facing the window, and covers his head with the blanket. His mother looks at her son and frowns. She knows there's nothing more she can do, and hates the fact that this is the truth. "Okay," she says. "Maybe we can talk about it in the morning." She shuts off the light and slowly begins to shut the door behind her as she leaves the room. She takes one last second before fully closing the door to watch over her son, missing the days when he needed her to come to his rescue. Knowing her son was going to grow up eventually, she just wishes it hadn't been his father's death which stole the last moments of his childhood. "All right," she says as the door clicks shut behind her. "Sweet dreams, Jeremy." She says this quietly to herself as she backs away from the door and heads back toward her own room on the other side of the second floor of their home. Her head slumped forward, contemplating what might possibly be going on in the mind of her son, yet somehow afraid to know the answer. Jeremy just lies in bed the rest of the night, unable to get himself back to sleep. Through the blinds of his window, he watches the moon slowly move across the sky, taunting him to try to return to sleep if he so dared. Just as the light of the sun appears to peek over the horizon, his eyes begin to weigh heavily on his face. As he begins to feel himself being pulled into the land of the unconscious mind, he hears it, the screaming siren of his alarm clock. As he turns and faces the ceiling, the alarm still screaming all across the room. Closing his eyes, he places his palms upon them and slowly slides his hands down his face, stretching his skin downward. Inhaling deeply, he sighs as he removes the hands from his face. Then, throwing them fiercely to the mattress, he releases it in a billowing huff. Shit! Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the story and how it's going, please subscribe so you can get every chapter as it comes through. Discuss in the comments, plot threads, and where you think the story's going. Share with anybody you think might find it interesting. Until then, I'll see you next video.